You're on Team Human, Conscious Intervention in the Machine. This is where we promote human autonomy in a digital age. That means thinking, touching, being, and exploring together in ways that cultivate mutual aid, common understanding, forgiveness, slack, and yes, love. You think times are hard? You ain't seen nothing yet. It's time to rise to the occasion. I'm Douglas Rushkoff, and I'm on Team Human. Playing for Team Human today, artist, activist, and cultural provocateur, Molly Crabapple. Molly's going to be helping us retrieve the purpose of the artist, particularly in hard times. It's time to intervene on behalf of people and all living things. I'm Douglas Rushkoff, and you're on Team Human. Well, it's my pleasure and honor to welcome my longtime friend, Molly Crabapple, to Team Human. Molly has been sketching, painting, and more in various forms and incarnations at parties, at Guantanamo, at nightclubs, in war zones, and beyond, helping us see the humanity in both dire and inspiring circumstances. If you can't see yourself, or better, the human souls lurking within the images she creates, well, you are not alive. She has created words and art everywhere from Ukraine to Syria that have appeared everywhere from the New York Times to the Museum of Modern Art. Her books include Drawing Blood and Brothers of the Gun, and you can see her work at museums, galleries, and of course at mollycrabapple.com. Hey, Molly.
Hey, Doug. How you doing?
Welcome back to Team Human.
After so many years, right? How many years ago was it when we were last sitting on a stage, together bullshitting about the world?
God, it was pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID.
At a place called Civic Hall, which is, I was going to say no more. It's mutated to something else. Yeah, it was near Union Square. We were on stage talking about, everything.
Everything in the world. And then several apocalypses happened, but we're back together again.
Several apocalypses have happened since then. That I guess I'm getting used to apocalypses.
I think the best parties perhaps happen at the end of the world.
Yeah, that's funny. I wouldn't have gone here, but I was actually thinking about, a next book thing. And I was thinking to do a book called Embracing Apocalypse. How to enjoy the end of the world, and then maybe some little extra subtitle of, and maybe just save it in the process, just, for the progressive lefties who still have hope. But do you think there's something to that, to that end, accepting an end, whether or not we're all going to die someday anyway? I mean, even if we all die together, it's just a different kind.
So one of the pieces of yours that I always keep coming back to is you wrote this piece years ago about how billionaires are so fixated on the end of the world, but they cannot imagine an end of the world that in any way subverts the hierarchies that they have been, creating the whole time. So they can imagine an apocalypse and themselves living in a bunker, but they cannot imagine living in community in the bunker. They can only imagine living protected by guards that are wearing beheading collars. And I don't know. I was being glib about the best parties at the end of the world. I don't believe that the apocalypse is around the corner. I believe that even if everything is hell, even if everything is shit, that we keep living and we keep finding joy and beauty in it. And I think that the drive to the apocalypse, this drive to imagine end times Messiah, it's this, I don't know, it's this thing to take our minds off of the beauty and community and rebellion that we can create now.
Yeah.
You're not as hopeful as me. Tell me.
No, I am. It's funny. I had a chapter in this book I wrote called Present Shock. And the last chapter was called Apocalypto. And what I was thinking was that because of digital technology and the way it broke down narrative and all, that people needed to then recreate narrative in some way, that we moved into such an always-on, present-based reality that we were longing for anything that felt like beginnings, middles, and ends of the stories that we were told. This has to end. We're going somewhere. And they would rather believe that we're going towards the end of the world than that we just keep going.
And it's true. And also what the digital how do I put it? Like the screens, the scrolling, the short form videos. It's not. It's not it's not like being in the present the way it is to be in the present when you're next to your lover in bed. You know what I mean? It's not being in the moment. It's actually the exact opposite. It's like this disembodied getting dopamine hits into your brain, constantly on the edge of an anxiety attack thing where like the only thing that you feel is just your fingers scrolling on a screen.
Right. That's the sensation. And the thing you think that you're catching up
Yes.
with what's happening. But no, that just happened. This is what's happening.
Exactly.
It's catching up with you. You know,
Yes.
and we keep denying ourselves that moment. And there's so many ways to do it, either scrolling the history or thinking, what am I going to buy next? What do I need to do next? And we get stuck in that. And I guess, yeah, this whole apocalypse thing is another distraction from right now. You know, which is why I was thinking embracing apocalypse, not that the world's really ending, but it's like, let's just say it is. Let's just say you're right and it is. Now what? Look into your lover's eyes. You know, touch somebody. Even if it is happening, what do you want to do? You know, be in the actual moment. And then if you are in the actual moment, that starts to make you aware of social injustice and economic inequality and the climate. You know, if you're in the moment, I don't want forever chemicals in me right now. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah, if you're in the moment, if you are in the moment, you find so much to love, and that love will drive you, right? Because you want to protect that. Like I walk around New York City, you know, I'm from New York. I was born here. My mom's born on a kitchen table in Coney Island, like old school New York. And there is so much about this city that I love so much in my heart. Like I look at these crumbling tenements that have angels all over the lobbies. I look at the little patches of garden that people make next to the trees. I look at these mosaics that are all over the East Village that this veteran in a wheelchair puts up, you know,
Right.
out of broken glass. And I feel such love to our broken, fucked up, our crushed glass glittering city. And I want to protect that, right? I think that so much of what I do comes from that love. And I think that a lot of what the world that tech people are making is one where we're so atomized, where we're just in our interchangeable, boring ass apartment, scrolling on the screen, feeling our finger go over a piece of glass, having anxiety attacks because everything is shit, and then ordering stuff that is dropped off at our door by someone we don't even speak to. And it's all about like the detachment from the present, the detachment from the physical world, and for closing that love that you might feel for your
Right.
community and for your home.
I know. And it's interesting. It's part of, not to make it about this, but it's part of why I wanted to move even this podcast from the internet back into the world.
Yeah.
There's something being conveyed. And I know they're great conversations, but most podcasts I've done and that everybody's doing are like on Riverside or Zoom or something. And they are still conveying that disconnection. There's two people in two very different places using this net to try to touch antennas through a medium. And sometimes it works and you can talk about ideas, but I mean, I can smell you now, you know? There's what's being recorded now is intimacy between two living organisms.
Exactly. Like it doesn't have the weird lag. And also Zoom is the most narcissistic medium because when okay, this is confession about me. Like when I'm doing a Zoom with someone, I'm like looking at myself. I'm being like, am I doing my angle right? You know, you're not really, you can't connect with another person that way.
Right.
Instead, it's just mirroring you back to yourself. And like, fuck that, man. Like,
Right.
fuck being like Pavlov's bitches in the cage that the tech barons have designed for us.
Right. It's like listening to a Morse code conversation between two people. It's like that's not eavesdropping. That's info dropping. You know, you're observing the data exchange. And I guess it's worth it if there really weren't enough conversations happening. Then I could see let's all do that stuff. But there's more data. There's more conversations out there than I have time to listen to. You know, there's like so much stuff that if we start producing less, I don't know that that's such a crime. I mean, it goes back to your work. I mean, your work takes time. You can't just snap a picture. You're
No, yeah. Yeah, and that's how, I mean, okay, I'm gonna go on.
Scarcity.
Yeah, scarcity. I'm gonna go on like a wonky thing,
Please.
right? So the tragedy of human life is that we die. And we have only so much time to devote to anything, whether it's planting a garden, making artwork, having fun, or whatever. And so part of, I think, what imbues art with value is that you're spending your scarce human life on it. I remember I was reading this essay, or not essay is way too nice a word to dignify this slop. I was reading the written ejaculations of a venture capitalist, the sterile written ejaculations of a venture capitalist. And he was talking about how great generative AI was, because he was like talking about how he loved David Bowie, and it's not fair that David Bowie's dead and he can't produce any more David Bowie content. But with generative AI, no artist ever has to die. And also the David Bowie content that the David Bowie bot produces can be tailored for the VC and his taste, and it can have him in it as David Bowie's best friend. And wouldn't that be nice? And I was reading this, I was like, this is someone who does not understand what it means to be human, what it means to make art, and what it means to devote your scarce life to creating something. He doesn't see artists as people who have devoted their irreplaceable hours to conveying something to other people. He sees them essentially as little bots creating content to tickle his dopamine centers.
Right. Well, because he's on the other side of Marxism. When you're on the capitalist side of Marxism, it's like human beings exist to provide the labor, so that you can extract the value from it. Which is interesting to me about the AI is I feel like, I'm going to have to try to get into a Marxist conversation, but I feel like AI might break Marxism. If AI works the way they're saying and replaces all these jobs so that we don't have to do so much work, that there's artists left. But if we don't have to do that, then what, in the capitalist scheme, what are humans for anymore?
So I'm gonna push back on that.
Yeah.
AI doesn't replace jobs; it makes different jobs. For instance,
like digging.
Yes, like artisanal, like child cobalt miner, for instance.
Right.
Or security guard at a data center, so angry mobs don't wreck it.
Right, or a nuclear power plant maker, or data tagger, or
it makes shit
so
jobs.
Far, right? It just pushes jobs further down the food chain. It hides them. It's the dumbwaiter kind of a technology.
Exactly, and it makes jobs worse. It takes you from being someone who's an illustrator to being someone who photoshops bunions out of AI stuff. It makes it actually is almost a super Marxist thing. In the same way that
so far anyway, yeah.
And I don't see any way out of it. I mean, AI isn't saying that it's going to make cobalt. It's not saying that it's going to make gas or oil.
You would
or
hope
water.
In the imagined AI future.
In the fantasy land, in the marketing copy.
The AIs make the robots that then go dig for the cobalt so the children don't have to.
But there's no indication that that'll ever happen.
Right.
Like the only thing that we actually see AI doing is replacing copywriting and illustration and translation jobs.
Right.
But I actually think of it almost as something that, if you look at what it actually does, it almost reinforces Marxism. Because I go back to the original technologies of the Industrial Revolution, and what they did wasn't necessarily make people work less. In fact, it often made them work much more, right? Like the cotton gin did not eliminate slavery. It massively increased the demand for slaves, right? Or the mechanical, what is it?
Like the loom?
Yeah, the different looms. One of them was actually commissioned by by the bosses to disempower annoying textile workers so they wouldn't go on strike all the time.
Right, because you could use untrained people. Right, you go to the Home Depot parking lot and you train someone in 10 minutes how to use one part of an industrial machine so they're infinitely replaceable and they have no power.
Exactly. And it's interesting. There's this great book by my friend Brian Merchant. It's called Blood in the Machine.
Yeah.
It's a history of the Luddite movement from a labor perspective. And it's just about how you took a world where you had these people who worked really hard, but who were artisans working in their own home, wearing what they wanted, singing songs, getting drunk during the day if
Mm-hmm.
they wanted, hanging with their families, making their own hours. And what the machines did was it forced them out of that life and instead forced them into factories. And my friend Brian Merchant wrote this amazing book called Blood in the Machine, which is like a labor history of the Luddite movement. And he talks about how what it really was it was these like highly skilled textile workers who had a life where they were autonomous, where they worked at home, they produced their own cloth, they did it extremely well, they chose what patterns they wanted, they
Mm-hmm.
chose what hours they were going to work, they worked with their families, they could sing, get drunk, whatever they wanted, go out for a walk if it was a nice day. And what the introduction of these mechanical looms did was it destroyed that life and replaced it of one where you went to a fucking factory that didn't have any windows and you breathed in cloth dust until your lungs stopped working and you sat and stood up at the command of a boss and you got paid a pittance of what you had made before and often where you were replaced by children from
Right.
workhouses. And
And you were paid by the hour instead
exactly.
of for the value you created. That's when they
Yes,
put the clock on the tower of the village as well to make it look fair and to
exactly.
to almost to naturalize this very unnatural system.
Exactly. And where you weren't an individual anymore. You weren't like
Right.
a talented weaver who was negotiating in the market. You were just a cog. And one of the points that Brian makes is he talks about how the idea of the Luddite as some stupid person who just doesn't understand machines is actually propaganda by the bosses. What the Luddites were was they were people who were coming up in a world that didn't allow labor unions, and they were using industrial sabotage as a way of protesting against unbearable and impoverishing conditions. And Brian also talks about how the Luddite movement was not destroyed because the bosses had better
Mm.
ideas. It was not destroyed because people liked shitty cloth made by child slaves better. It was destroyed because the British Crown made breaking machines a capital offense. And then they sent in soldiers in the largest domestic occupation of British history, and they shot the Luddites
Yeah.
and they sent them to Australia. That's how it was
Right.
actually destroyed.
Right. And the other thing that helped reinforce this mechanization of labor were the chartered monopolies. Right. So people used to have small businesses. They would go to the town market and they would trade in local currency and all that. That was made illegal with the invention of the chartered monopoly, which was saying that, you have, His Majesty's Royal Textile Company. So you can't work for yourself. You have to work for him. So it's that these moments in history when technology pushes us down the food chain are usually associated with the collusion of industry and government to make new rules.
Exactly,
And we're in
exactly.
one of those moments. I mean, were you at the coronation on TV, right? Where we see, Bezos, Zuckerberg, Musk, and whoever, together with government saying, okay, I mean, Musk is in the White House making policy for what? For the next technological so-called revolution, which is really the next technological subjugation of humanity to another tech system.
Exactly, like the replacement of the government and all of our social services with some sort of fucking app that gives him access to all of our data and just makes everything infinitely shittier, more frustrating, and more stupid than it ever was.
Right.
Just the looting of all of our collective, the looting of our society.
Right. And they do it under the guise of deregulation because what the king did with law, this new regime will do with code. Right.
Yes.
So you make it look like there's no law, no regulation, we're all free. It's like, no, you're not. You're using a platform that only works in a particular way.
That's literally we're mice that are running through the mazes that they built.
Skinner boxes, moreover, they're mazes that force our behavior, but then they're also designed to change the way we think about our predicament. And to keep us like we were saying before, to keep your eyes on the prize or on the doom or on the carrot or on the stick or on the apocalypse or on your or origin identity. I mean, there's all these different ways of keeping us from seeing the reality of where we're at.
Exactly, exactly.
Which is then brings me, the first question. We're well on our way. The first question I was going to ask is kind of like, because this has been my problem. How do you make art? How do you do art when there's so much shit going on?
Because
And
I just do it. I mean, I.
I feel, partly it's my Jew thing, and you've only got half of that Jew guilt, but then you get Puerto Rico guilt, which is a whole other kind. I feel like when there's bad stuff going on, how dare I? Making art is so fun. Making theater, writing books, and even if I'm going to address social issues in this, I'm still basking in. When you're drawing, when you're in it, does it feel at all like? On the one hand, does it feel like an indulgence? But on the other hand, how do you kind of maintain composure? How do you stay in the artist's space of metabolizing all of this trauma around you and then rendering beauty from it?
Maybe what I will say is not helpful because I'm talking about something that I'm so in that it's almost like a fish explaining what water feels like. But first of all, when you're drawing, you're doing a skill, right? If I was a carpenter and I was making bookshelves, there could be all the trauma in the world. But if I am sawing down the wood, I'm going to be looking at the saw blade, not necessarily thinking about the world's trauma. Like it's a physical act to draw, and it's a trade. And so I find it very focusing, actually. I've had all sorts of situations where I've been in the most fucked up things where drawing, it's almost something that stabilizes you.
Right, you're in Guantanamo or Syria, and I'm just thinking I'd be so destabilized. But I guess, like you draw, I would want to get to my keyboard and just writing.
Exactly.
I would craft it into linear words would actually be so calibrating.
Yeah, because it's what we do. I think that one of the best things a person can have is something that they're really good at. And it doesn't have to be drawing or writing. It could be that they're a really good car mechanic. It could be that they're really good at like building things, like carpenter. They're a really good cook. But whatever it is, having something that you're really good at and that you really love to do in the real physical world is one of the most precious things anyone can have. And I think one of the most grounding things. And also a thing that helps you deal with crisis, right?
Right. You must have an accessible flow state.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, I remember I was in this refugee camp in Iraq, and there was this guy I met there, and he was an artist, and he set up a little art studio next to his shack, and he made his money in the camp by doing murals on other people's shacks. Because just because people are in a camp doesn't mean they want to live like shit, right? They also want beauty. I've been to all sorts of places where people are living in extremis, and there's not a single person I have ever met who doesn't try to make the place they're in, however crap it is, beautiful with whatever means they have.
I know. Went to some exhibit and they showed a menorah that they made out of tinfoil in one of the concentration camps. And they took the time. And then I was thinking, maybe they did it because they had kids and they wanted to, whatever reason. But they took it and they made this little thing. So it's like,
yes.
And I know some people are like, there couldn't have been so bad in there if they did that. It's like, no, that's not the point.
That's not the point. The point is that they're humans and they do not want to be reduced to the state of a tortured animal. And what art is, and not just art, but, anything that you make, right? Like the little thing that a carpenter or a woodworker would make or a seamstress would make, what that is it's an assertion that you're a human. And that's something that like horror cannot take away from you. I just finished writing my next book, and a lot of it is set during the Warsaw Ghetto. And in the Warsaw Ghetto, there were poetry readings, there were ballet performances, there were opera, there were nightclubs. And hilariously for me as a leftist, there were many leftist factions. And they illegally published newspapers. And what did they do in their newspapers that they illegally published? Denounced other leftist factions for not understanding Marxism, which also is people doing what they're used to.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just because the world is horror does not mean people cease to be what they are,
Right. Which is why it's not, and I know it's a slippery slope, but it's also why it's not a crime to have fun.
No, it should not be a crime. Anyone who says and guilts people and shames people for having fun, someone called it, I'm trying to remember, there was someone very smart whose name I'm forgetting. They called it nerd hall monitor energy. It's like shaming people for living, for being alive, for having fun.
Right. So it's like, yes, Trump made this decision, or this is happening, this immigration thing is happening. People are suffering right now. At the same time, I'm going to go into this bar on the Lower East Side and listen to jazz and be transported by some people. It's like it's okay.
I mean, unless you're, a serious Buddhist or something who believes that the very existence of suffering in the world is something that's so unbearable that you have to meditate unless you have no desire. I think about, right, like the Buddha when he was a prince and he's like living in this palace. I'm not a Buddhist. I mean, respect, but I'm not. Yeah. But he's living in this palace and where he's been shielded from the knowledge that there's old age and there's sickness and there's death. And when he finally goes out of the palace and he sees old age, sickness, poverty, and death, he's so horrified by it that he has to give up his whole former life and first flagellate and torture himself and then sit under the Bodhi tree until he attains enlightenment. And when I heard that, I was like, it was almost like, I'm a little different. I guess the fact that life contains horror and it contains death, the fact that life is essentially tragic and finite doesn't mean that you shouldn't have desire for me. I think you should have everything,
Right. No, it's part of it. Manja. You know, there's a zest and sexiness to existence. And, it's the thing, it's in the West, what we don't get is that unrequited love is still great. Unquenched desire. It's like, I've got friends I'm attracted to who are in relationship who I'll never, be with, but it still feels good to be
exactly, yeah,
with them. It's like
exactly.
But to stay in that place, that's aliveness. That's what we don't get. That's why everyone wants to make the purchase, get the deal, make it to the end, win the election, eyes on the prize, which is why we're so apocalyptic. It's like, we want to get to that orgasm, the end. It's like, no, you don't want to get to the end. You want to just be in the of it,
Why are consumers raving, environmentalists celebrating, and dermatologists recommending a dryer sheet? Because Kobe cracked the code. The first all-cotton, 100% biodegradable dryer sheet. Spelled C-O-B-I. C-O for cotton and B-I for biodegradable. Kobe delivers cloud-soft laundry that's static-free and safe for everyone's skin. The only dryer sheet that disappears after use with no toxic legacy in our landfills. Save 10% on your first order at KobeDryerSheets.com. C-O-B-I dryersheets.com.
And that's what's so hard. It's always been hard for people. Like we, have monkey brains. But it's specifically hard now because the entire way that the world is set up and the way the technology is set up is meant to prevent you from doing that, from being in life and all of its lifeness.
Right. And that's where you as the artist bring us back. There's this, I don't know why I'm thinking of it now. God, what was this? You did a show on Ludlow or Stanton.
Shell Game,
right. It was about capitalism, at least to me.
Yes,
so it
was.
Oh, good. I understand.
That's why it's called Shell Game.
Oh, good. And there was this one piece in there. It was a spinning wheel.
Yes.
What was that called? Like time or...
I think I might have just called it the Wheel of Fortune or something. But yeah, it was spinning and I had all of these slices that were like all the horror, but also all the fucking nightclubs and luxury and protest and all of it together and it worked. Like you spin it.
Right. That was the thing. You go in. And this is the thing. It's a formal art show in a real gallery and all that, but the images were all kind of playful. And everybody's standing at this, spinning this wheel. And it's like, who lets you do that, to touch the thing? But it was also this kind of satire because that is the way capitalism works. It's like, wherever you are on the wheel, it's like, good luck.
Though now the wheel is getting increasingly like, you can't spin it, just stuck, depending on who you
yeah.
are.
Oh yeah, they locked it down. They locked that wheel down. They it's not as fair even as a Vegas wheel. Yeah, that was a fun one. Yeah, Wheel of Fortune or something. Yeah, I guess I thought of that because of this the relationship to time. You know, again, it's like, you know, what's my fate gonna be? What's my thing gonna be? But I mean, for me, the more important thing about your work is the way you find the human in somebody and the way you represent it. And that's a thing that, you know, one will never know. I'm sure for you it's craft, but for me it's art and mystery. Is like with a few lines and a few like kind of, you sometimes put like watercolor over the thing. It's like the person pops through, you know, and sometimes it's a person in dire circumstances, like the guys in Guantanamo or the child in Syria or something. But then you did this this series, which hopefully we can intercut. You did this one that I wept when I saw. I don't know why. See, I almost God, I'm such a weirdo.
You're not a weirdo. What are you saying?
I'm gonna cry because there was this. I don't know why it did. There was this picture in the Chair series of this guy. He's like he's kind of tattooed. And
Yeah.
He's kind of like, it's like half relaxing, half almost like maybe he's an addict or something.
Yeah.
And lying down there, and I saw his humanity in that.
My friend Omar.
Omar, yeah, it was called Omar. Yeah, that's why you called it that. But you see the human there, coming through the lines, through the thing. I just, you know, and it's that. How, I guess I'm interested in the what it feels like to you to see, to capture, to how you recognize what is the humanity in that thing that you're going to convey, and how do you, or if that's even the way you're thinking about it.
I mean, people are human. Like, I guess I don't think about humanizing people because they are human. Like,
right,
it's
they
not
started
something,
out that way.
Yeah, it's not something I'm going to give it to them. But with the Chair series, so that was actually my attempt to fight back against the amount of my life that digital technologies had colonized. I wanted to break out of that. And so the Chair series was a piece that I did that was done only from life. It had no photo reference. It was not multiple sittings. I didn't even play music. That was digital music. I played all my music on my vinyls. And I would just have someone, sometimes it was a friend, sometimes it was a stranger.
Sometimes it was two, like there was a couple on the chair. Yeah,
There's a few couples posed. And I just had them sit on my great-grandmother's, old pink chair for hours. And sometimes we would talk, sometimes it would be more silent. And I would draw them, and I would have them come how they wanted to be painted. I have a friend, for instance, he's a believing Muslim, and he came in this very beautiful shalwar kameez, which is traditional Pakistani outfit, very embroidered brocade. He looked so handsome and regal, and he was joking. He was like, I turned your haram chair halal. And then I had this other couple. They were lovers, and they were both actors. The girl was a Shakespearean actress, and she was practicing a monologue. And her boyfriend had learned it by heart so that he could help her rehearse. And she was sitting on his lap, and they were whispering the monologue back and forth to each other. And she was like, "How was it?" And he's like, "Well, you have to stress it a little more here." And they were just repeating this monologue over and over again. It was the most. I mean, I nearly wept. It was so romantic. It was so beautiful. And they were just these perfect, exquisite young people as well. And I just, it was like looking at people, really looking. Artists look at people in a way that I don't think anyone looks at anyone else in the world. I don't even think you look at lovers like that.
Right.
I don't think you look at your lover and you're like, what is the exact angle of your nostril?
Right.
what is the...
So it's that technical.
Oh, yeah.
I guess it has to be.
How else do you get it right?
I don't know. You imagine it from my side. You imagine it's just like soul,
No, it's so technical. It is so technical. It would be like, if you gave me a guitar, I'm a very musically untalented person. You gave me a guitar or a violin, give me a violin and a bow, and you're like, make music. I would be fucking playing that part of the bow that's scratchy. It would be terrible, right?
Right.
To make the violin sing or to make a guitar sing, you need a whole body of knowledge. It doesn't just come from the aether.
Right.
It's the same with art. And so much of what you do when you're capturing someone, when you're capturing the humanity, as you say, is actually almost the opposite. It's very objectifying. It's breaking someone down. Like I could look at you and I could be like, oh, your eyebrows are like triangles that are tilted at a 45-degree angle to your eyes. And the color of brown that's right next to your pupil fades into a slight green brown on the outside of your iris. And the whites of your eyes are actually slightly blue. Like that sort of level. And that analyticalness is how you capture things.
Wow. I know. I guess, sadly, writing is the same
Yeah, exactly.
same way. And the thing is, the illusion is that because everyone can type, everyone thinks they can write.
Yes, they really can. And it's fucking dreadful. Most people cannot keep a coherent thought. I read Facebook comments.
I know. That's and made the book industry pretty damn crowded. I'll tell you that much. With a lot of text. There's a lot of text. Oh, I guess I'm wondering in your experience of change now, do you think that as I'm questioning it, do you think that we're in a particular moment of change right now? Is there really something, happening in intensifying, or we just sort of shifting global pain around? It's like, oh, now it's migrating over here to, we've been causing so much global pain over the last centuries, and now, oh, here some comes for us. I mean, do you think that there's an actual a quickening of some kind, that this thing that's happening in America, and, and Trump and Musk and this, it's like, oh my gosh, or is it just, of course, this is what we were talking about, WTO protests and Occupy and everything else.
It's like the Hemingway quote that first you go broke slowly and then all at once. So I think that you were warning as we were going broke slowly, you were warning about it and you were saying, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And now we're at the all at once stage.
Right. It doesn't mean that our response needs to be any different, though. So then what do? You take care of each other, right?
You take care of each other. You get to know your neighbors. Man, one of the things that I think this stage of capitalism is really making hard is to know your neighbors, because so much of what is happening now is about displacement and housing. So, for instance, my boyfriend, he comes from Western Pennsylvania, from Erie, like Rust Belt town. And when he grew up there was a neighborhood where you knew the person who was in the house next to you and they owned that house. And, they lived there for a long time and their kids grew up there. And, his mom traded tomatoes with the other mom. But now that house next to his parents' house has been bought by a mega corporation and is being rented to people. And it doesn't allow people to stay in the house for 20 years. It turns over, right? So you can keep jacking up the rent. And what this creates, because this is happening everywhere in America, is it creates a world where it's so hard to have deep communities because people keep being forced to move.
Right.
It's the same with the attacks on rent stabilization here, because rent stabilization is one of the most important things for there being long-term communities in New York. There really is this thing where capitalism views us all as like these fungible tokens. You could kind of just move around and wants to make it so that no one except the super, super rich can afford to stay anywhere.
Right. I mean, you're probably like me, with someone I get kicked out of neighborhoods regularly.
Same.
The Upper East Side, the East Village, West Village, East Village, no village, until I was suburbs, because it was all I could afford was to be out of the city.
No, we got evicted from our last building. Our building was this really amazing, old school tenement. We had a really tight community. We lived there 12 years. We took care of each other during COVID. I mean, it was the sort of thing where I like had this food poisoning. I thought I was gonna die, and my neighbor like literally was someone who could be called and like bring me water and stuff and hold it next to my head so I wouldn't like die of dehydration. That sort of thing. Really took care of each other, and then it got sold, and some German Argentine, just saying, lawyer bought the building, and he evicted everyone. He sent a process server and evicted every single person in the building, including like a guy who's in his 60s who had lived there for decades.
So distant. You want to say, do you know who I am? You know who I am? I mean, but yeah, it doesn't matter that you're a member of a community because the person who owns it is not a member of the community.
And in fact, they're actively hostile to the idea of communities because communities can hold power accountable. It's one of the only things that can, communities and unions. And that's why both of these things are under such huge attack.
Right. And it's why I'm okay with the majority of us not being directly involved in sort of top level political activity. Because if you simply help knit the fabric of a community, knit the fabric of mutual aid and mutual dependence, you're doing so much. It's why I keep making this argument, like, let 1% of us be like leaders who figure out what to do, and the rest of us just create the grassroots rhizomatic network of community support, love that empowers those activists.
No, exactly. I mean, I don't want to fucking be a leader. I don't want to sit in meetings. Like I had to do a lot of research on Lenin. Not my favorite person, to put it mildly, but nonetheless, like the idea of living like that, spending all your time in meetings, trying to dominate meetings and kick other people out of meetings and do like parliamentary skullduggery to marginalize this person or that person, I would die. I would rather shoot myself in the fucking head than live like that.
Well, I'd rather live like that than shoot myself in the head. But still, I'd rather not live like that. But, I mean, there's the AOC people, who know how to do those things.
And bless them, like deeply needed. Like bless Bernie Sanders, I was on the I was on the campaign trail for him. I stumped for him. Like, bless him. But I could not imagine spending my one life on that.
Right. No, it was like you and Astra Taylor and Naomi Klein. And Bernie.
We could have had a real one.
I know. And I think it was that Joe Rogan moment, which sadly our own, the left turned on him because of that.
Moronic.
He could have had all those boys, all those Rogan. Rogan was supporting him originally.
I was on Rogan twice.
Yeah, I was on Rogan once back before he was as big as he is now.
No, it was moronic. I mean, first of all, how stupid are we that we think it's a bad idea to go on the top podcast in America? Just that. You're running for president. Are you not supposed to appeal to voters? Is this where we are? Are you not supposed to convince people? And second of all, like, at that time, Joe was like an open-minded dude.
Mm-hmm.
And someone interested in a lot of different opinions, and he could have been our Bernie bro.
But to have the opportunity to address the Gamergate community, whatever those boys are.
They're not just the Gamergate community.
But even if they were.
They're not just that, though. They're just guys. Like,
I know, but guys, and help them understand that the thing you're actually angry about is this capitalism thing, that has convinced you to be angry at women or to be angry at this or to be angry at social. It's not that. It's this thing. I mean, I thought he could explain it in a way that you go, oh, I get it. I'm being put down by this. We're all being put down by this same thing, and that they didn't give him the left didn't give him the chance.
No, they didn't give him the chance. And it was a defining moment of stupidity, I think.
Yeah. And led to some of where we are. But, I'm even hopeful about where we may end up, that there was going to be a destabilizing something somehow anyway, and we could push through. This could help people reclaim community. This could, I don't know. There's ways in which that this could wake people up to alternatives.
We've been saying, though, I mean, not me and you, but like I feel the left has been saying each time things get worse, the left has
Right.
been saying, this is going to be the thing, and then there's going to be the rev. And that's not how it works, man. It's like, I think actually what it...
Hit bottom, 12 steps, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. Like, I don't think us losing Medicaid is going to wake people up. I mean, I think about this a lot with abortion,
Just
right?
going to kill people. Yeah.
Like ever since Roe v. Wade
Right.
fell, there's been an amazing activism primarily by women to, get other women abortion pills in these states, to help women, get rid of pregnancies they don't want. There's been amazing activism, but time is finite. And that was activism we didn't have to do before so we could devote ourselves to other things. And I also think about just abortion pills, which are so fucking painful. They remind me of field medicine or something,
wow.
It's like compared to surgical abortion for almost all women, they're just horrifically bloody and
really?
painful. Yeah, they really suck. And so we now are having to do literal field medicine on each other because we lost access to a much better, form of medicine, risking getting arrested for it, risking getting extradited for it, devoting all of this energy and money and time to it that could be used for other fucking things, like the fact that our planet is warming so much that it's going to kill us. It's like basically each time they chip away at these things, it just means that we have to use more energy
Right.
and more time for something that we thought we had covered.
Right. So it's like if you're fighting for school lunch for your poor kids in your community, there's one less person that's dealing with climate change or...
Exactly. And it's like that's what these advances in the social safety net do is they free us, right? They mean that we have more time to do either fighting climate change or just having fun, but something. They free us from the grindingness.
Right.
And I just think that that's what we're losing with this. Like if you don't have Medicaid, then you don't get certain things checked out, and you just suddenly something that would have been a tiny operation becomes fatal or becomes disabling.
Or it becomes a 2-year health crisis.
Exactly. And then it costs a lot of money, and then you have to work other shitty jobs, and you see what I mean? It's just I don't think it actually is going to be this amazing acceleration thing that makes us realize, the wickedness of our ways any more than COVID was, honestly.
Right. I know, you would have thunk. You would
Yeah.
have thunk. And bird flu won't, and hemorrhaging whatever from Ebola or whatever won't. It'll just turn people against each other even more.
Or make people forced to primarily care about themselves and their family and their immediate circle of friends because the world is so rough, and you have to
Right.
at least take care of those people because there's scarcity.
I know. It's just, I got so many friends who are saying, oh, I'm going to leave the country now, because they're going to put us in concentration camps and stuff. And it's like, nah, they don't have to put us in concentration camps. If you want to get someone off the playing field, use the AIs to predict which of these people are journalists or bloggers are most likely to, foment unrest, and throw a couple of tax audits at them.
Yeah,
That'll keep them busy.
That's all they fucking some tax audits, maybe a lawsuit for defamation.
Right. A couple of those things, and just do it with machines anyway. It won't cost anything to the people that do it. And you've taken them off the playing field. They're busy.
They're busy, and besides, they already have people in concentration camps. They just shipped a bunch of immigrants to Guantanamo.
Right. They actually...
Yeah, they did it.
Guantanamo well. I didn't know there's room for immigrants at Guantanamo.
So Guantanamo, those Camp X-Ray, which is the outdoor cages, the very famous ones, those were originally built for Haitians.
Oh.
Yeah, no, originally it was a place to imprison Haitians that were trying to come to America. And then it became the torture camp for the war on terror. And now it's going to be, I don't know, a place he imprisons and tortures Latinos, I guess.
Yeah, and we almost shut it down. I thought Obama was supposed to close it. Yeah, he didn't do a lot of that stuff that I thought he was going to do.
Too much cowardice. They basically bribed and bullied every single poor country in the world to take a few Gitmo detainees. And then when they ran out, they sort of threw up their hands and they're like, okay, I guess all these people are going to get old and die here.
Oh, and we'll close it after they're done.
Yeah.
But then couldn't resist bringing in some more. I know. And you've gone back and forth. I don't know, back and forth between art that's definitely art as social justice, right? You know, this
I hate the word social justice.
I know, but you know what I mean. Art, political art, global
art about politics
art
and
about
protest,
politics
yeah.
and protest and global things, and art that's not necessarily, not directly. I mean, do you see yourself going back to address these things? I'm for some reason, although maybe in my work it'll still be there, I keep wanting to move away from it because I feel like there, at least in speaking and writing, there's so many people with so many hot takes and smart things on what's happening politically and this and that I might better serve people, helping them recognize, you know, the ways that they can engage in their communities with other people and all that, rather than talking about Gaza or some, you know, where other people know better what's happening than me. But do you see yourself going back and doing more of that kind of, you know, war zone kind of field work art? Or do you see yourself moving, I don't know, toward your, I don't know, older, original, sketchy kind of stuff?
Towards hanging out in the Chelsea Hotel and drawing hot people?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I like to do both. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's really a privilege to go to some place like Gaza or Ukraine, and you know, the relationships you make with people are so intense, and you know, like some of the most vivid moments of my life have been in those places. Like I feel so grateful, you know, that I've been able to do that, and like some of the heroism and creativity and solidarity and just strength, and also like humor. Some of the funniest fucking people I ever met, like the funniest, most sarcastic motherfuckers I met in those places, you know? And so I do want to keep doing that. And I feel like a lot of the skills that I used in those places I developed when I was drawing burlesque shows, which is just how to see something fast, how to draw while you're being like jostled and you know, and pushed around, how to capture something really quick when it's in less than ideal circumstances. And you know, right now a lot of what I'm just doing for fun is I'm just drawing my neighborhood. I'm just drawing like all these old school people, you know, who like who hang out in my neighborhood, like the guys who hang out in front of the bodega, you know, the old lady that feeds the cats, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I guess I have this sort of, how do I put it? I'm artistically promiscuous. Does that sound?
Yeah.
Like I think of myself as someone who draws life, and sometimes life looks like a sexy burlesque dancer, and sometimes it looks like kids blowing bubbles and chasing each other in the rubble of a home that Israel destroyed, because they're both life, right? It's all our world. It's all life. And I don't like the idea that you have to draw divisions in it, that you have to cut yourself off, that you have to, you know, brand yourself like some sort of cattle and say, no, I am a serious person. I am social justice.
Right.
Or no, I am, you know, I do light and sexy and fun things. No, it's like you're an artist. I mean, you're a human. Even more than being an artist, you're a human, and humans can engage with all aspects of our world.
Right. I mean, I guess maybe as an artist, you don't get the same kinds of feedback I do about subject. It's like, why haven't you written about this?
Oh God, I get so much.
you
Oh
do?
yeah, people constantly yelling at me, constantly.
And what do you do? Do you take that on board, or you're just like, fuck it, I'm just do what I want to do?
I used to feel bad about it. Now I don't. You start thinking about it rationally, and I'm like, if I took on board everything that people say that I should be covering, which often are things I'm not expert on, which
Right.
often are things I don't know anything about, I wouldn't be able to do anything. I would just be running around in like a little circle. There is this great article by this writer, Janice Rose, for 404 Media. It was called "You Can't Post Your Way Out of Fascism." But one of the things that she says is that the internet, or social media rather, gives you this delusion that if you're not posting about everything, you don't care about anything.
Right.
And it's bullshit. It's fucking bullshit. And it's a way to make yourself mentally ill, crazy, fucking crazy. Like, it's humans are not like that. You cannot. No human can stop or care about all the suffering in the world.
That's why there's so many different ones of us.
Yes,
Each of us can worry about different things.
Exactly. And the problem is that I don't know. Every time someone does that now, I keep thinking like, why don't you fucking do it?
Right, good idea. You're head of the committee. That's
Exactly.
what my Spanish teacher used to say.
I love it.
Jefe del comité.
I love it. Yeah, you fucking do it. If you care about that, you go there. You do it. The world is big.
Right. Yeah, that's a good one. Go for it is my new mantra. Great idea. Go for it. I approve. Oh my gosh. We were gonna, I don't know. I think there's time. Is it appropriate even though? I mean, to draw something, is it weird?
Do you want me to? But the thing is, if I'm drawing something, I won't be able to like talk with you in the same way.
Right.
But I mean, I'll show you my sketchbook.
Yeah.
Here, this is the first part's Palestine, then there's some stuff with Greece, and then there's some just my neighborhood.
It's an actual artist sketch. Oh my God. I don't even know how to do this. Can I do this on this camera? Should I do this there? Or
I mean, I can send you scans too. But
yeah, maybe. I'm just gonna. Just these two dudes.
Those are like Palestinian guys at the Allenby crossing, like baggage handlers on their break.
Oh my God. Is she just a person that you
She's just
found?
my buddy Maza. She's an amazing Ethiopian writer.
Right. So you're basically writing in black ink and then going over it in...
Yeah, or sometimes I'm like making like messy nonsense lines and then going over them in black. All sorts of things. You know, a lot of times you just have this bag of materials.
All right. So look at these dudes. Right. So these are the dudes that we were just...
Yeah, this is Allenby Crossing, which is the crossing between the West Bank and Jordan. And these guys, they're Palestinian guys who are just baggage handlers on break, smoking their cigarettes.
And that was on your way in?
Yeah, that was on my way in.
Oh my gosh! And so this is the sketchbook that you had with you, in Gaza.
No, this one. I went to Palestine twice. The first time I went, it was in 2015. It was when I went to Gaza. This time it was just the West Bank.
This is Palestine?
Yeah. That's a cultural center in Ramallah.
So that's pretty.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. Palestine's fucking gorgeous. It's so beautiful. I mean, I would choose a snow bar in Ramallah over many bars in New York.
Like, look at this guy.
My friend Taufik, good Marxist.
And he's in the U.S. or he's a...
No, Palestine. This is all Palestine stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was in Ramallah.
God. Did you learn any of the language there?
Well, I mean, I studied Arabic for 7 years.
Oh, really? So you can just talk?
No, man. It's a hard language. I can, like... How do I put this? This is a nerd answer. I can read contemporary literature in Arabic, but whenever I talk, my accent is so ridiculous. I feel like, so this is a checkpoint.
I was going to say, is she in jail or at a subway?
No, it's
something in between.
So these are these checkpoints. So this is a checkpoint called Qalandia. That's like if you were in Ramallah and you wanted to go to Jerusalem, you have to go through this checkpoint. And so they have these turnstiles. They're like the subway ones.
Yeah.
However, they have these like Israeli soldier girls that are in a booth, and their job is to press the button that makes the turnstile go. And a lot of times they're too busy dicking off on TikTok, and so they just leave people trapped in these fucking turnstiles like this because they're taking selfies and not paying attention. It's an Israeli settlement.
Oof. This is a settlement? That's what a settlement looks like?
Yeah, that's what a settlement looks like with the guard tower and the, walls and everything.
I've been so pissed off. I realized that part of what I was pissed off about as a Jew watching what's going on in the Middle East is that they took the Jewish star and put it on their flag.
Yes, they stole all of our fucking shit.
This is a sacred image, and there's nothing more profane than a national flag, right? Because a national flag, because a nation state is inherently violent. It's a compromise of anyone's ideals.
No, it makes me so angry whenever I see like the desecration of symbols. So
I can't take it. It's like if you're like an original tantric Indian or something, you can't just wear a swastika anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
It got taken.
It makes me so angry, so angry.
I think they meant well with it. The idea was, well, who's this guy?
That's my friend Mohammed Al-Kurd. He has an amazing book that came out that's called Perfect Victims. It just came out like a week ago. He's this like brilliant young Palestinian poet.
He's so beautiful.
Yeah, he's really handsome.
And his book's in English?
Yeah, his book's in English. Perfect Victims. Y'all should get it.
Wow. And let's see.
That's my friend Anji. She's an amazing. She's from India. She's a documentary filmmaker, and hottie, obviously.
I know, but then you just go crazy with the yellow as if to say.
Well, it was, the reason actually. See, this is an interesting thing. So, I can talk about my process and how it's, I think, different than maybe a more intellectual person would think of things. So I put the yellow on because literally I'm sitting in this dark corner watching her speak far away, and I reach into my bag of implements, and the first thing I pull out is a yellow thing, and I just and I use it to sketch out the shape of her, and then I put the dark lines on top of it.
Right, and then someone like me goes back and goes, "Oh, well, the meaning of the yellow is."
Exactly. So this is fucking Hebron. They have racially segregated streets in Hebron, and this is what Palestinians have to do to go to school. And also, there was an AI powered gun that shot rubber bullets on top of that monster wall of bullshit.
So let me ask. I mean, I'm going to stop with the how. This is a very childlike question, kindergarten question, but I'm allowed. How do you segregate a street racially if everybody's basically the same race?
Because there's IDs. Your everything is marked on your ID.
So it's not by you, because we got the same DNA as Palestinians, right? So it's got to be
But I mean, it's the same
national.
Yeah, but it's the same thing with I think most forms of racism in the world, everyone looks the same. I mean, if you were talking about Serbs and Bosnians, right?
Yeah.
Or, Pakistanis and Indians, or Germans and Jews, quite frankly.
Right.
I mean, most, that's because race isn't real. It's a construct.
Right. And you tend to have, you'll have more different DNA from someone in your own race as someone from some other race.
Exactly. So. It's just about it. It's just taking physical characteristics or no physical characteristics, because y'all look the same, and making up these phony categories for power. That's what it is.
Right.
And it's not real. And I think Israel-Palestine is very directly, because everyone looks the same. It's not real. It's
right.
just about enforcing power and stealing land.
Exactly. And if you even go to 23andMe and those things, that's not 23andMe, and those genetic analyzers are not really working the way you think they are. They're kind of using probability of all the other ones that they got and what people reported about themselves to then tell you what you are. So it's basically just data compiling, it's not you. It's it's like a statistical trick.
Exactly. People probably came from here, but then people are like, I'm 187th Bulgarian, and that's why I like embroidery or whatever.
Yeah. It's all so much more squishy and interstitial and weird.
Which is what makes it interesting. I mean, one of the things I think I really hate is the idea that there are these discrete identities, and there's this notion of purity, and you're in this category or this category. It's such bullshit. It's so ahistorical. All of culture is flux and melding and sharing and stealing and violence and appropriation. That's all of it together.
Yeah.
That is what human culture is. And the idea that there's these people who are the goodies or the victims or the oppressed, and these people who are the baddies and the oppressors, and these categories are stable and fixed. Is nonsense. Power is fluid, identity is fluid, and I think that the more people realize that, the better. Instead of dividing yourselves into stupid fake racial categories.
And it's funny, that's the initial hit I got off meeting you. I remember it was at I think it might have even been I think Jeff Newelt got you to come to a reading or a book party or something that I was a part of. And you came and you in a white blouse and almost like a red long schoolgirl skirt or something, and a sketchbook and a thing, and you exuded such a there's no way to categorize you. Is she being sexy, or is she being pure? Is she being artsy? Is she being conservative? Is she being straight, queer, in between, sex positive, or prim? And it was all at once, this kind of kaleidoscope. And I'm like, Jeff. And he's like, yeah. Meet Molly. Yeah, of course. Because he just saw me how do you regard this person? And it was like, they're
just a human.
Yeah, you're just a human. You just open and just be there. And you've done that. You know what I mean? All the sort of boundary crossing and all the way back to Mr. Sketchies. It's like, is that sexy? Are they hookers? What is it? What's going on? And they're teaching you to draw. And it's like, what?
With amazing models that are artists in their own right.
I know.
And like this whole thematic thing.
I know. It's just always breaking those borders. And in a way to finally get us to a hopefully, and I think this is what you do, a holistic, judgment-free, boundaryless appreciation for who we are, for each other, for the human condition.
Exactly. Besides, there's only one identity group that's actually the enemy, and that's billionaires.
Right. If they choose to identify that way. And maybe there's someone with $1 billion who's actually nice. But for the most part, I think once you pass 100 million or so and you keep going, there's a problem, right?
Well, it's like there's enough money for you to dine on caviar every day and fly private jets, right? There's enough money for you to live a life of luxury. And that's, what is that, like 10 million, 100 million?
Right.
And then there's enough money for you to buy countries. And no person should have enough money to buy countries.
Right.
That's just it. Like, that should not exist.
They used to stop that. You know, after a certain point of wealth, you would give 90% of it.
Yeah, in the 50s, in ye old days, like that be
In
trad, you know?
Right. In the trad Make America Great history, that's what billionaires did. They weren't billionaires.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because the reason you don't want billionaires is the same reason you don't want kings.
Right. But looks like that's where things may be going. But if we have to be subjects, there's no one I'd rather be a subject with than you. So thank you, Molly Crabapple. Thanks for being on Team Human. Before there was a Team Human, you helped define what and model what being on Team Human is. And thank you all for being on Team Human. Team Human is produced by Joshua Chapdelaine and edited by Luke Robert Mason and the whole team here at MCM Creative in New York. We're moving and changing and vibrating in all sorts of new ways. And I hope you follow us along and even support this show by going to teamhuman.fm. You'll get cool things like the satisfaction of being a member of the team, invitations to come for free to live events. You get the ad-free version of the show, access to our Discord, participation in monthly Q&As, and things are happening. This is the place to be. All right, thanks for being on Team Human, our last best hope for peeps.